now. Um, so I know Alicia just got in. Alicia.
Yeah. Hi, Jermaine. I'm driving, so I won't be on camera, but I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Yes. And thanks, Watisha, for popping in as well. How are you doing, Watisha? You know if your camera and microphone are working.
I'll turn it on in just 1 second, okay?
Okay,
But
cool.
hi everyone, how are you guys doing today? Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Good. Yeah. So what we were just discussing was um, a little bit about the book. I did want us to jump into it. I did want us to do a quiz about it after we have some time to discuss like the first chapter and get kind of caught up with it. I do want to ask who has been able. It's one thing to complete the chapter; it's another thing to start the chapter, be somewhere in the chapter. So I definitely just want to at least get an idea of who has cracked open the book. There is an introduction that honestly is good, but I'm not quizzing you guys on that per se. But it is a good introduction. So I don't want you to miss out on it. Rather, you don't have to read it, but I don't want you to miss it. Has everyone started looking at the book? A few chapters, a few pages, or at least, or has anyone completed any chapter yet? The one first chapter.
Yeah, I think I got through the most of the first chapter and the introduction,
Okay.
and it's Alicia. And I just want to say that, yeah, the introduction especially, and the injury and all of that he had, reminded me of what my oldest son, went through. So
Oh wow. Uh huh.
it it definitely touched me. And then, of course, some things stood out in the first chapter, and they include that process of being cued by something, and then
Mm,
um, craving something so much that then you devote your time, and it becomes a habit. And it's routine that many of us have gone through. We've done it automatically, but he names it, um, and the doctor that did the research on behavior response, and or what do they call it, where they've studied things like that over the years. But I think it's human nature for us to repeat things over and over until we understand it completely. And that's part of the habits and the routines that we do normally. Um, but it's good to just see it replayed or reminded, especially coming from um, different people from different backgrounds experiencing the same methods that work in terms of making things happen, and creating change in your life. So,
right. Right. So yeah, I definitely like that he starts getting into, or yeah, he just said breaking down the process, because it is things that we don't necessarily think about that he's naming that allow us or have helped us to maintain certain habits in our lives, or that have we have seen disrupt our habits because certain things have been removed or certain things aren't set up in a way where we would naturally remember to do it. We sometimes therefore have to like fight to remember, how to do something new. One thing that comes up a lot for me is every once in a while, you'll meet somebody or run into somebody that you knew from before, and they'll say, "Hey, like, can you call me this week?" or like, "Can you text me this week? We should catch up or we should hang out." And you say, "Sure," and then you forget because it's completely out of the norm for you to reach out to this person. It's completely out of the norm for you to spend time with this person. So that has happened a number of times where I go, let's talk, let's reconnect. And I'll go, man, I completely forgot to call you because I never had to call you. I never called you last week or last month. And this is the first time we're trying something new. And I'm failing at it because it's not a routine yet.
Right, right. But those small things that can change that and put you back into, and that is if you've had enough discipline to follow routines. And I'm a Virgo and I really do follow routines, right? And so, for example, recently I said that I would talk with someone about something once I met her and I was like, "Oh yeah, give me a call." She gave me a call yesterday and I was not prepared. But
Right.
immediately after we hung up, I prepared for our conversation today at 3 o'clock. But that routine of preparing for, like, preparing for an interview, preparing for a dissertation, preparing for a test, we do that, but it depends on how we see different situations, different people, different relationships. And I think
Right.
if across the board I treat every encounter with someone where I say I'm going to get in touch with them, if I treat them all the same way with a particular routine where I prepare for the conversation immediately, I don't wait, da da da, don't procrastinate, blah blah, blah, it all works out. But that's part of the discipline, the routine, the habit.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up too. Being prepared or preparing for certain things. I know it's really important too. One thing that he mentions, and I'm not sure actually what I don't want to do because I have read it before, is jump ahead because I'm like I know like if you will the whole pizza. So I'm like, hold on, let me stay on the first the topics of the first chapter. One thing that he mentions that I recently actually saw a video on Instagram was the aggregation of marginal gains, and so he's talking about the example of the team. I don't know if it's I think it's Britain's cycling team, and he's talking about how the coach began to break up everything that was normal and try to improve on every single aspect of their practice, their transportation, the bicycles, their workouts. Everything began to not only be categorized, but intentionally improved in very small ways. Um, that again accumulated again we said aggregation of marginal gain, so as it all aggregated or came together, the marginal small little things that they begin to do differently begins to add up, and produce a different result, right, different outcomes. And it makes me think a whole lot about how it's really important for us to make small changes, right? One thing that he mentions is it's not about making, he said, massive success requires, some people believe that massive success requires massive action. And I've heard that. I'm literally thinking of Tony Robbins. But he said there's also a way of making improvements by 1%, doing something 1% better over amount of time, increasing that percentage into a point where you go, oh man, now I'm starting to see not only the results, uh, but I'm seeing how this thing is getting easier. But I definitely get the idea and the importance of starting small. And so I do want to ask either Watisha or for William, have you seen that an example of that in your life where you've seen like, okay, I made a small change, and because I made this small change over time, this small change began to, if you will, snowball into something bigger? Either William or Watisha. And definitely let me know if you guys can hear me if you can't or something. So I want to talk to myself.
Sorry, Jermaine.
Hmm, hmm.
Can you repeat the question? I had a client who was asking me a question while you were asking me a question. So now that I'm
Okay.
able to walk away, I can hear you better now. I
Okay.
just
So
couldn't tell her to
just
be
was
quiet in the
asking.
midst of her talking.
Right, right. I just was asking, do you have an example personally where you intentionally made a small change, but over time, that small change begin to have a big result or a big outcome.
Um, yeah, I guess so.
Mhm.
I remember just being in a position that I'm in. Sometimes I get connections with different resources, and so I just had a family who I've noticed weekly that they would need food to kind of hold them over throughout the week until she was able to get more money. She was a mother
Mhm.
of like 9 children, and she was only 8. And so, in
Right.
between the weeks, I would, out of my own pocket, just buy her little stuff just to make sure that they were cool. And then, of course, someone found out I was paying for it out of my pocket. And of course, that becomes a liability and all these things with the systems. And so they suggested that I'll just go, I could be a help by extending to her the services through the San Francisco Food Bank right there at the bottom of Betrayal Hill. So we
Mhm.
started doing that. And I guess she started telling her friends. And then so it went from having just her to about 3, 4, 5, almost 20 people at one point. And
Mhm.
so then we just went ahead.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Hopefully she gets to hop back on soon. Um, Let me see. While she's on her way back, one thing that has come up for myself and my family recently is one, the desire to get in shape, the desire to be in better shape, especially after the baby has arrived. And there is this desire. I was talking to a friend the other day, a desire to do everything at once. Um, do a crazy workout every single day. Um, but I was speaking about the importance of just starting somewhere, whether it's just taking 5 minutes to walk, taking 5 minutes to even what Alicia mentioned earlier, just preparing, right? The importance of setting up an environment for yourself to successfully do that habit, and how useful that can be to just get prepared, get all the clothes ready, get all the shoes, make sure the shoes are in the right place, and just getting the environment ready can be something that can help a whole lot as well. Sorry, Tisha, I know we lost you for a second.
Yeah,
But yes,
I'm
definitely continue with your story.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I asked I just started a new job, so I need to be present. So I asked my boss, could I leave out? So that's why I was kind of caught up for a minute, but now I'm by myself. So to finish what I was saying, pretty much, that went from us being able to form a partnership with the YMCA, Betrayal Hill Family Resource Center, to where now that service for the food bank for all the residents of Betrayal Hill is now available every Tuesday from 9. I'm sorry, from 10 to 1. So they get that service. Food bank comes up there and actually delivers for up to 500 families. So it went from this one lady to the whole Betrayal Hill being serviced. So I think that was pretty cool.
Nice. No, that's real. That's real. Um, and I like that bit too, because one thing he, excuse me, he does mention is breakthrough. Something about the breakthrough. And something about the overnight success. I know I took a note on that. There are breakthrough moments that take a long time. Um, and so he mentioned there's a breakthroughs that take a long time, because the idea of like a breakthrough is that it just happens suddenly. It just happens out of nowhere. And what he was getting at was the example of the bamboo, I believe the bamboo tree, and how you have to plant it and water it what is that, continually or consistently for about 5 years. And after 5 years, and only after 5 years, does the bamboo sprout. I think he said something like 90 feet in the air, um, over a shorter period of time. And using that as an example to say, like, there's some things that we do regularly that it doesn't show up anywhere. It doesn't get us anywhere visibly. We don't see any difference. We don't feel any difference. We don't see any impact, whatever it may be. But after time, there becomes a breakthrough somewhere, somehow. It makes me think about people who go viral on social media, of course, but it also makes me think about one example that came to my mind is Steph Curry, and how Steph Curry was good and Steph Curry was shooting and Steph Curry was coached and Steph Curry played basketball, and he wasn't absolutely amazing every single year he played basketball. He wasn't absolutely amazing all throughout college. He wasn't absolutely amazing even in the NBA. And there are numerous people who weren't amazing in the NBA for the first number of years. There are those people who are amazing from the start. LeBron James is a good example. You know, they were just, look, they're killing it already. And then there are those people who are just in the NBA playing basketball, playing for whatever team they're playing for. And 1 year, we don't know what happens, right? We can't necessarily put a date or a time on it, but then the superstar is born, right? The superstar level of play just begins to happen. And what we could say is, well, what did he do that year that he did differently? And let's just do those things. But the reality is you can't separate it from the journey. And whether it's AAU, whether it's high school basketball, whether it's college basketball at this small university, all of that contributes to the breakthrough moment that eventually happens, in which, again, we begin to see very tangible results play out in our lives. And so I definitely, see that example come to life at times. I definitely have experienced that personally in times in which working out, getting it, having doing exercises, eating whatever I need to eat, yada, 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 and feeling like, even though I know something's happening, I can't tell, right? It makes me think about the days when we haven't seen somebody for a long time and they have a baby. And if you saw them every day, you'd be like, I don't know what's changing. I just know that she's heavier, right? I just know that she's a little bit heavier than she was before. But if you took the time to go, remember 3 months ago, and look at the pictures and look at the difference, you see, oh my gosh, the differences are so obvious, because now we can see how much has actually changed when you compare and contrast, or you see it, in a new light, because, sometimes they make big changes in small seasons. It makes me think about growth spurts too, and how those happen. But I definitely wanted to emphasize just the importance of starting small, starting something, and doing those things on some type of regular basis. It doesn't have to be every single day. It doesn't have to be every single hour of a day or something like that. But if we can put our finger on the habits that would put into motion the results that we ultimately want to see, we can find ourselves achieving that goal in time because we were consistent. One thing that Terry mentioned on social media the last couple of days was the cheat code is consistency. The cheat code is consistency. It's not, a matter of, well, if I met this person, everything changed, or I did that and everything changed. But if you stay consistent with something, the power of consistency does also involve growth, does also involve playing, or rather doing something different, because you recognize that something could be done better because you kept doing it, and you recognize, oh man, this takes too long, or I could do this with less effort or less energy if I just tweaked this. But you wouldn't find out how to do it better if you didn't just do it again and again and again and again. And then you start to notice, oh, this is what's going wrong. This is what's not happening. On a little bit of a personal note, I want to even say one of the things that some things that we've changed myself along with my wife and our relationship has been a result of us just being together, right? And as time progresses, you see, man, we have these arguments. We have these arguments at these times about this. And I'm starting to notice a pattern, right? I'm starting to notice that we shouldn't talk before 4:30 a.m. Like, I know we got to get up, we got to go to travel, we plan this ticket, we got to get up in the morning and get to the airport by 7 o'clock. But if we have the audacity to have a conversation about something serious, come on, somebody. If
Okay. Okay.
something serious at 5 a.m. is probably not going to go well. I think
The
explaining
audacity.
the audacity. Who do we think we are? We just go start. It's still dark outside, and we think we can sit up here and have a cordial conversation about something real serious. Um, but that's definitely something that, again, I only noticed after, again, years of doing that, and it goes, oh snap, I think I see the pattern, I think I see where it's going wrong, I think I see the step I'm skipping, or I think I see the thing that we're not being cautious of. But it only starts to become clearer and clearer because you've done it for months or you've done it for years. um,
Mhm.
I know you hear me, Alicia.
Uh-huh. It's hitting home, definitely. Because he said in the book, good or bad, positive or negative,
Hmm.
consistent habits are formed and they could be good or bad.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, good. Nancy is dropping in. Um, so yeah, there are definitely things, patterns that we can get into, and we can even use the term habits, because this is what the book is about. But definitely any type of routines that we have that are slowly hurting us, slowly hurting our goals, slowly hurting what we're trying to accomplish. The more that we look at and examine the things that we do and don't do, the more we can clearly um, notice, where the problems lie. The more we can see, okay, this is what we're not doing. And honestly, again, going back to the example of the cyclist, it can take some very serious conversations and some very um, being very curious about what's going on and what's not going on, doing some type of research, right? It sounds like they really took some time to research, how they were cleaning the air, how they were exercising, again, the weight of the bikes, what they were wearing. I even think about how important it is when people change things like their cleats or their helmets or the colors that they're wearing. Like, all of these things can simply be looked at as like fashion, but sometimes these are changes that people are making because they've noticed or heard or researched something about the weight of the clothing, the weight of the bicycle, the weight of the different tires that are out there and how they can grip or not grip certain pavements. All these things start to become more and more important, especially if you're trying to have a little bit of an advantage in these numerous different ways. um, and so I
And
know.
that's,
Mhm.
let me just add that's mathematical. That's qualitative and quantitative analysis that only changes when we add the differences or when we take away the differences. And it's up to us to, we can control a lot of what happens.
Mhm, mhm.
But but then there's God.
Right. That too. There are miracles. There definitely are miracles. I remember listening to a book by, I think Phil Jackson wrote a book, and he talked about how he has, like, I think it's like 11 rings. And he said, and honestly, I didn't expect this, but he did say, in order for us to have won those championships, it took hard work. It took teamwork and chemistry and all those things, and it also took a lot of luck. And I go, wait, you're the coach, right? Like you're the one that, you've won consistently and you do so well. I'm sure that you're not depending, if you will, on luck. But I know I've seen some plays in
Right.
any of the sports where I go,
No.
man, I know that they wanted that to happen, but it didn't have to. That was a lot of luck right there,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and so yeah, there definitely has to be taken into consideration. Um, especially when you start to recognize, certain people's skill level when they do explode, if you will. Sometimes it's out of nowhere, and they're like, "Dude, like, I didn't expect you to be this good this year," and they're like, "Neither did I." I I'm just playing the same game I was playing since I was little, and this is just happening for me right now, and I am just riding the wave. I'm being grateful for the fact that I'm on this wave, but I can't simply attribute it to I just work hard or I just am so talented that I expect this to happen. A lot of things cannot happen for really successful people or really great athletes, even though they do have great skills.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to jump ahead. I know that in the second chapter, or what I'll say, in future chapters, there will be um, sheets. There will be things that he would encourage us to fill out, statements he would encourage us to write. There will be more structure in terms of, write down what your schedule looks like on a regular basis. What are the habits that you have? And what is something you would like to add? Those types of things will be coming, but he's really just kind of, if you will, setting up the foundation right now. And he really just, if you will, is preparing us for those future things. But I definitely want you guys to be ready for that in the coming weeks, because there are going to be those real questions of um, what am I doing currently, with whether it's with my business or not, and how can I improve my daily habits? How can I improve my daily schedule so that in time I'm seeing different results? I'm intentionally trying to improve in these particular areas. And if I just manage to intentionally add something to my day or take away something from my day, I can find myself, if you will, slowly evolving or slowly elevating in these different areas that I want to address. But yeah, I just didn't want to jump ahead. Is there any? I know that again, I still haven't heard from William. Is there any statements that he said that stood out to you, or anyone else for that matter? Any things that he just said that really struck a chord?
I would say that Jermaine and Alicia,
Mhm.
something that stood out to me is when he talked about goals not necessarily being what we should aspire to, and
Mm,
that sometimes goals can be a part of the problem, or a part of the one of the obstacles to seeing your success.
mhm.
On the marginal level,
Right.
when you're always aiming for these goals. What are your goals? What are your goals? Your mission statement and all this, and all the pressure that people put on you. What do you expect to accomplish in this? What's your short term goals? And it's just
Mhm.
expectation everywhere.
Right. Right. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm actually dealing with that personally right now in my personal life with regard to the fitness stuff, because I know that I've been working out. Again, we had our baby and all that stuff, but I've been working out since September, and I'm in a place right now where I'm at the weight that I've been fighting to get to, and I know if I'm not careful, I could slowly just go right back to where I was and I didn't want to be. And therefore I have to, by some means, and it's on my mind, I'm trying to have more conversation with a trainer.
Mhm.
by some means staying the course somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does it
Mm-hmm.
look like to stay the course? What does it look like to be here and to aim higher somehow? Um, what is that difference going to make? Not difference going to make, but what is that change going to be so that I'm not just kind of like, what is that? Like on vacation, just thinking, okay, this is really cool. I'm where I want to be.
Right.
Do I just keep doing the same thing every week, or do I start doing
Right.
something a little differently so that I'm not just here? And it makes me think of the quote, "I didn't come this far just to come this far."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My brother owns a fitness gym, Mike West Fitness. You can
Hmm.
check him out. But also, I would say in terms of consistency, and this is just based on my personal experience with working out and all of that. And when I finally got it, Jermaine, when I finally got it, I paid attention to what it was that helped me. And for me, it was all week long. I had to follow the discipline and the strict regimen. On the weekends, I ate whatever I wanted to. I made sure I was still active and working out. I had
Hmm.
to always, be lifting some weights and not necessarily doing cardio, but really hitting the weights and hitting enough weight to really cut up the muscle, really burn and feel that pain. And then on the weekends, I would splurge and treat myself to all the foods that I wanted. But then during the week, was that heavy, heavy, heavy discipline. And I'm telling you, I have maintained my weight s- forever,
Uh,
forever. Once you
hmm.
get it and you know it, I mean, that routine will work in terms of your weight control. I think once you know what it is.
Right.
But the other example was just with teaching myself how to edit on Adobe Premiere, which is what they use at the TV stations and all, and being hired by all of the major networks and everything. I had to learn it. Nobody's teaching that, and I had already graduated, and there was no way for me to take that class again. I really didn't want to go back to school. After you graduate, you're done. You just want to work and make money. So I went
Uh-huh.
on YouTube and I studied video for 2 summers without a break from the beginning of one summer to the next summer to the end of the next summer.
Mm.
I taught myself, and I mean, here I am. I'm owning and operating my media organization. I mean, it was just one little part of it, but
Mhm.
editing is a major part of, producing video. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. And thanks for sharing that example. Was there a schedule that you tried to follow in order to stay on
Hmm.
top of studying that, or how did you
Oh yes. Oh yes. Um I spent about about 4 or 5 hours a day
that's
consistently.
that's a good amount of time. Uh-huh.
But I mean, the yield was executive producer, Crown 4 Television, the very first digital content producer in the nation to
Mm-hmm.
launch a 24-hour newscast called
Mm.
Cron On. See,
Right.
I made history. Okay, so that kind of dedication can yield outstanding results that you
Right.
will never even imagine.
Right, right. And it even makes me think about like what you were just saying, like was it a technology that was really new? Is that what you're saying too?
Exactly, because um, Adobe Premiere Pro editing is super complicated. It's about color grading and motion graphics, moving, doing animation literally electronically and digitally,
Mm,
amongst other things, right?
mhm.
Sound editing is all incorporated in Adobe Premiere. And so it's so many levels to learn in that. Uh,
software that most people would just go for Final Cut or iMovie, something that's very straightforward and simple. But because I wanted to work on the corporate level for Nexstar and for iHeart and for KCBS and KPIX and Crown 4, I had a goal for myself. And in order for me to get there, I had to do what they were doing. I had to learn what they are using. And so that was my goal.
Right, right. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, and it makes me think too about a book I looked at once called it's not Tipping Points. It is Malcolm Gladwell. And I think it was Outliers. And one of the conclusions that he drew about the Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, I think he even mentioned um, Henry Ford and like Rockefeller and so on and so forth, was that they were born and around a time where something revolutionary was happening, and they were one of the first people to devote themselves to this new technology. For Bill Gates, of course, it was the computer, but same thing with Steve Jobs, right?
Mhm.
And both of them, were ahead of basically everybody because it was new, and no, everybody was like, we
Mhm.
don't know, like they just
Mhm.
made it, but
Yeah,
it's out there. We use it for this, we use it for that, and
that's right.
they took the time for whatever reason, took the
Mhm.
time to not only figure out something about it, but to
Mhm.
master it. And at that
Mhm.
point, it was like, well, there weren't a bunch of masters of this new technology called the computer. And in time, they became the
Mhm.
ones
Yes.
that mastered it. And now they have
Mhm.
the largest, right, the largest companies for computers that are competing with one another. And whether it's Microsoft or Apple, I think they're just always kind of like competing for the top spot, even
Right.
after Steve Jobs is passed away. Um, but a big thing is timing, and so I feel like, yeah, just like what you're
Timing,
mentioning,
yeah.
you're learning something when nobody else is really teaching it, much less
Mhm.
understands it themselves.
Right, right. And then that introduced me to the Crispin automation system, the digital automation system that actually automates television and radio now. And so,
Hmm.
I'm still working because now I can work from home through
No,
automated systems. They get me set up on software and I just work from home now. So, yes,
right.
timing is everything and really being able to learn the processes. The
Yeah.
processes. Didn't you talk about systems?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. One of the statements, I mean, I know this one off the top of my head, which was, we don't rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems.
Yeah.
And that's something that speaks a lot because we can think a lot about motivation or inspiration. And it goes, oh man, like I have this goal to reach this thing. And it's like, that's great that you have that goal. But if you don't have any systems that support it,
Mhm.
I would even say from a foundational level up into, a system that really keeps things going. Um, that can really fall apart at any point in time because you don't have things in place, infrastructure. And some of these things are completely physical and are the results of, I have a computer at home, I have a home, I have an apartment at least where I could do this. And I don't have, I'm not struggling to find housing at the moment.
Right.
But all those types of things have to line up first for certain habits to be able to take root. But when that does happen, if you do have systems that ensure that all that stays the way it is, in time you can build some that again support you in accomplishing the goals that you're setting for yourself.
Definitely, definitely. And I saw that in 2015 after my divorce that was the perfect timing for me to get it together because I didn't know what was coming in the next couple of years after divorce. So
Hmm.
yeah, timing is critical, critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, all of the things that are consistent in our life, whatever is consistent will ultimately matter, in how we can manage any certain habit in our lives. If we say this is what time I wake up and I brush my teeth and I do this, that works until we're not waking up at that time, or we don't live where we used to live, or we're struggling just to be able to get to sleep at night. So many different things can alter these habits if we just if they are altered, in some foundational way, where we're losing our livelihood, we're losing the place where we stay. But once those things become consistent again, then we can start to really build on the fact that, okay, you have a place to stay, I have a job, I have this income coming in. Okay, with all these things said, now I can start to build, a system that helps me to keep my job, keep a house, whatever that may be. Definitely want to get some more thoughts again from other participants. Again, there's honestly a bunch of quotes in the first chapter that I kind of wanted to touch on, but again, is there anything from William or Nancy or Tisha that stood out for you in the first chapter? Anything that stood out?
In the book or just
Yes,
in the conversation?
in the book. The conversation possibly, but definitely the book. Anything that he said that stood out.
I mean, I think we talked about activities and how we apply those methods and different things. And I really thank you for sharing your story. That was so inspiring. And as a Black woman, I just take my hat off to you for all the hard work that you put behind getting into that position. So congratulations to you. Um, but it's
Mhm,
also a mindset. You have to get to that point where you want it. You have to want that dream more than just the possibility of creating a business. Because if you're just
mhm,
going after money, then you'll fail. Because money chases you once you're dedicated to the work. So
right.
that was the one thing that I picked up on what he was saying. Because sometimes you got to hear what someone isn't saying. Because he was
Hmm.
saying all of these things, but also those things was connected to the way each um, scenario thought about itself or played itself out. And all of that was connected to either the effort or the lack thereof. So I think our fail
Right.
or our success, as you said, it depends on how much we put in it, but we can only put in as much as our minds have expounded on the vision. So you can't
Mm,
look at other people and think, I want that, right? So
right.
let's just say after hearing the story I just heard, if I just knew her, just to know her, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, ma'am, because I was had so much going on around, so I don't mean to just say her. Um, just imagine I'm looking at her from afar and I'm glorifying her life and I want it. I get jealous, I get envy, and I just want what I see she have, but I don't have the agility or grit to stand up and do what she did to get there.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
where, um, that's what separates the the adult from the child. If you really want a vision, it starts in your mind first. That's why it's called a vision, because you see it and then you bring it forth for everyone else to be able to experience it. And so, yeah,
Right.
for me, that was what I got out of it. Your mindset.
Right. 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 And that's super key. You're right. Having that desire. I love the word grit. It's not a pretty word. Whenever I think of grit, I don't think of something nice and sweet, but I think of metal gears grinding against each other, making something happen. Even though it's not a fun process. It takes time. It takes blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak. Um, but I definitely yeah, hear how important it is to have that type of mindset. And what I learned, I was actually talking with a friend maybe a day or so ago about the importance of hardships. The importance of tight spaces and difficult circumstances, because sometimes that's where the the grit, the um, the fight, the desire, and even to your point, the vision for something being different comes from. Sometimes if everything is fine, we may not ever get to a place where we say, man, like, I really wish things were better for this person or for that person. But until you see something, experience something that you really didn't like, go through a period of time that was really uncomfortable, you may not have those dreams or those goals in your mind yet, because you haven't felt what it's like not to have those things be a reality for you. You haven't felt what it's like to not be, whether it's in shape, or not be able to pay the rent, or not be able to know where the next meal is coming from, to get to a place where you go, I want to establish something that not only I don't have to go through this anymore, but maybe no one else goes through this anymore, right? I want to your point you brought up earlier, I want to have a food bank, right? So that this, I'm not just not dealing with that, but whoever else finds themselves in similar circumstances, they won't have to suffer the way that I suffered. Whoever else, doesn't have the means to take care of these things, they won't have to suffer how I suffer. And I think that definitely is a big part of um, having a vision, is having those difficult experiences. I wanted to just point out, he said, set goals for goals, systems versus goals. Goals give direction. Systems create progress. And so don't just stare at the scoreboard if you want the score to improve. Spend time designing your systems, again, which is he's definitely going to delve into that more in the coming chapters. But I definitely think that that's an example, or the cycling team was an example of people who took time designing the systems. Okay, this is what I do every day. This is what we do as a team every day. What is the goal that we want to achieve, and how do we have to change the systems so that these things start to happen more normally? It makes me think honestly about work, about having an organization. And we say, we want to have more clients. We want to have better customer service. We want to have better outcomes for our participants. And we say, okay, then what systems do we have, and what systems do we need to create so that these people have a different experience, so that our trainers or our speakers or facilitators are more skilled than they were in previous years? What systems do we have in place to create these realities that we want to see? And that one really, again, stood out to me a lot. Especially, again, given that I'm literally at work and thinking, okay, how do we improve the participants' experience in the Level Up program? How do we make sure that we have better results? When Letitia, when we were talking the other day, and we're like, a lot of people are talking about improving their programs or having an organization, but are they really thinking about the outcomes for the participants and the clients, and how do they intentionally improve their programs so that they have better outcomes, and that is something that becomes a real question at work when you're thinking, okay, I don't want to just, like you mentioned, have the numbers. We don't just want to have people showing up. We don't want to just be able to say, hey, we got 50 signatures. We want to be able to say, we got more signatures this month than we had last month, because we started to change the system. We started to change what we did on a regular day basis. We started to change how we approach things, and we did that intentionally. This wasn't an accident. And so definitely see the importance of having systems and designing them well. Goalless thinking, I think, again, gets back to we don't want to fall off once we've reached a certain goal. And so the importance of not focusing on the goals, but rather focusing on the systems, allows us to get to a place where we may have achieved the goal. Like I just mentioned with the fitness stuff, got there, you're there already. Do you keep doing this because it's not about the goal anymore? Or do you just go, I'm glad that I got here. I'm going to take the pictures and we're good. I'm about to gain all the weight. I'm about to eat what I want to eat. I'm all this restricted stuff. I miss pizza. I miss, I miss all these breadsticks. I miss all this stuff. I'm going to go right back to what I used to do. Or do we just say, I have a system now, and this is going to be the way that I proceed from here on. And whether or not I'm at this particular weight, I want to continue to build on these habits. I want to continue to build on what I've already been working on, such that I'm not stuck here, or I'm not slowly going backwards. I know I've heard a quote about that of if you um, if you're not constantly improving, you're constantly going backwards. And that's a real thing. So we do have to intentionally improve. So I did want to. Did someone say something? I'm sorry.
Sorry, that's me at lunch, Jermaine. Sorry.
Okay, it's all good. Naya, I did want you to send out the quizzes to the folks here. Let me know if you can do that if you have any technical difficulties too.
Yes,
Okay.
I sent it out through email, but I'll do it one more time just so they have it in their inbox.
Okay. And let me know, everyone, if you do see it in your email, if you do have it. And again, we're just going to be covering a number of these things from the first chapter. I actually didn't include things from the introduction, but we're just going to include things from the first chapter. Yeah, looks like it's called Atomic Habits Chapter 1 Quiz.
Yeah, I received the. It looks like a Google form to fill out.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got it.
Good, good. And so while I do want everyone to do that, I also am just acknowledging, like, it is a quiz, so we'll have, right and wrong answers, yada yada. I do want us to go over it. And so if we can try to take care of that, I think it's probably only like 7 or 6 questions. Take care of that within the next 10 or so minutes. I do acknowledge that people are moving, so let me know if this isn't the best time for you. And what we can do is touch back on it either next week or.
I'm going to fill mine out right now while I
Okay.
sit here.
Cool. Let me know about you guys' circumstances, William, Nancy, and Watisha.
Oh, I did terrible.
All good. All good. All
I got
good.
15 out of 30. That's terrible. Because I
Yeah,
didn't read
I
all of the
did it.
chapter and I just tried to answer it.
It is all
Me
good.
too.
Again, I'm glad that just glad you did it. So let me know. Um let me see.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Cool, cool. Okay, cool, cool. And honestly, I do want to say I do understand. Looks like we have two responses. Let me know, William and Nancy, if you are able um, to complete the test at this time so that we can go over it for everyone's benefit.
Jermaine, I just want to let you know that Mega Black meeting starts at 11:45. I'll be popping in and out, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Let me know what's going on, William. Let me know if you can't talk at the time, if you can even leave it in the chat, the private chat. And it looks like I think Watisha also completed it. Okay.
Would you allow us to go and do it over again, the test
Yeah,
once we're able to
yeah,
really get the once we're ready to really get the once we're able to really get the chapter in?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, actually. And we can figure out a way to send out another one. But yeah, because again, it's
Thank
not
you. I
about
appreciate that.
yeah, it's not about condemning. It's hoping that again people get the information. Um,
Yeah, for me, it's not the with me reading and then that score just let me know I didn't comprehend well. So I would love it to just go back and then take it over to see how much more different the scores would be. So thank you for that. I appreciate
mhm.
it.
Right, right. Definitely, definitely. Um, let me see.
I love the lectures, Jermaine. I'm just going to be straight up with you. When I was in college, I was an adult. I was in my 50s, and I just had to have a lecture. I had to have a lecture.
I hear it. I hear it. Um, but yeah, okay, so we could get started. Again, I don't know. Oh, you said Nancy submitted theirs. Okay, let me see. Because that should mean that there are three responses. I just see two on my end. Let me know, Naya, how you're able to see that.
Okay, I'll forward it to you right now.
Okay. Okay, now I see two responses.
I submitted my test.
Okay, cool. Hmm.
Or actually, for the one with Nancy, I only see the email that says submitted, but I'm not seeing the answers on the Google form.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing that. Um, Alicia, Watisha, and William have theirs. I don't submit it. I don't see one for Nancy. Okay, cool. Okay, now I see four. Okay, so I'm wondering how it is that I'm seeing these four, but this is good. Okay, good stuff. Okay, maybe I need to grade on a curve or something next time, but definitely glad that I got these answers. Cool. So, how do I go to it? So for the first question, James Clear dispels the myth that massive success requires massive action. And that'd be the answer to the first one. Again, speaking to the fact that massive action has to be, if you will, the thing that allows for there to be change. And I think this is really important too, because this is what a lot of people get us on, whether we're talking about speakers or we're talking about programs or we're talking about, yeah, I'll just say those two things. Speakers and programs. A lot of people say, man, you know what? If you really want to make something happen, you got to do something big and you got to do something fast. Don't just do something small. Don't be, well, I want to say dilly dallying. I never say that, but don't just be dilly dallying. If you put down $10,000 to pay for this program, you're going to get big results. And I think that is really nice, but I also think that it gets a lot of us. At the end of the day, I think that this idea that starting small and slowly changing up the process and building on what you started yesterday and last week and last month and last year, that these types of things, again, begin to snowball. Shout out to Dave Ramsey that talks about the baby steps. But yeah, again, the snowball thing. And so he does dispel this. He says, this isn't the way to do it. You just start with some small actions rather than massive actions. So I did want to speak on that one. James Clear says you get what you repeat, which again, honestly, I think that anyone who got this wrong, I understand, because those are good answers. Like, you get what you want. I've heard that before. I've heard you get what you fight for. I've heard that, and heard that you get what you fight, what you ask for. I've heard that before in different various ways. Pray until something happens. You have not because you ask not. I've heard those things, but I definitely love what he says here: is you get what you repeat, what you do consistently on a regular basis is what you start receiving. Is what you start receiving, if you will, fruit from, because you do it regularly. I always do this. I always eat this. I always go to this. I always play this. I always watch this. Those types of things are going to build on themselves and going to give you some results. And he mentioned that in good and bad situations, that this works. And so I definitely like that quote there. Your blank is more important than your results. And this one comes from the quote, your trajectory is more important than your results. While your certainty is important, while your course is important, the trajectory really shapes the course of things. And so it's all about putting yourself in a certain direction by doing these certain things at this certain time on a regular basis to get to your ultimate destination. And so that's definitely one of the things that he gets at. Success is the product of habits and not once in a lifetime change. Again, I definitely like the idea that, if I make a big change, if I move here, if I quit this job, if I buy this property, if I, make this purchase, whatever it may be, then things are going to change immediately. I like those ideas because everybody wants immediate change. Everybody wants things to be different today or tomorrow or next week. But he really gets at this idea that we have to build on these habits rather than expecting something to change because we did something big one time. Again, using the examples of the Steph Currys and the Michael Jordans, these people who were good. They were good, and they were good for a long time, but they didn't become great overnight. Rather, the greatness came way into the professional career. It wasn't the first year or the second year they were great. They were great after a while, and not after a week or two. The true long-term thinking is goalless thinking. Goalless thinking. So again, not focusing on the goal, but focusing on the systems. So focusing on the routines and the patterns and not just getting to one particular goal, because once you get there, you can find yourself stopping and saying, well, I'm here now. So now I can relax. Now I can play around. Now I don't have to pay attention to these things anymore. And that's definitely going to be a problem for anyone else. And then a slight change in blank can drastically change our destinations. And again, these are good answers. So if you got these wrong, I understand. Course is good. Perspective is good. Outlook is great. But he is specifically talking about a slight change in direction. If we point a little differently, we can get different outcomes. If we are consistent, but we're consistently doing something a little differently, something a little bit in this direction versus that direction, it can mean a whole lot. And I definitely think about the terms or the example of a golfer who was hitting the ball. And it's like, I want to do this, but if I don't hit it in this particular direction, I won't get in that direction. If I hit it slightly to the left or slightly to the right, same thing with a basketball player shooting a 3-point shot. If it goes a little bit over here or a little bit over there, I can definitely miss this. But if I go in this particular direction on a consistent basis, this is what I can expect to have happen. So that is what he is getting at in these two, in that last, in that last quote. But definitely Understand, like I said, I understand if we didn't do great on those. So again, we're going to figure out how to redistribute this so that we can get some better grades on this quiz here. Understanding that I didn't cover every answer one by one. So I definitely could see that some people could miss some of these, but did look like the highest was 15 out of 30. But again, glad that you guys participated, did the test, gave it a shot. Looks like 2 people got massive action, 2 people got repeat, 2 people got trajectory, 2 people got once in a lifetime. No one got the goalless thinking answer, and no one got the a slight change in direction. But again, we'll figure it out. We'll work together and figure this out soon for you all. We can actually wrap it up for today. I do know that we will have a we'll be speaking with Nancy tomorrow and with Mwangi as well. But also next week we'll be connecting again. So I want everybody to get through chapter 1 and get into chapter 2 for next week's presentation. So I have to get the speaker, but we will be having someone touch on some topics again that people have brought up. So this will be good for sure. But yeah, next week we'll be dealing with chapter 2. And like I said, I'll be making sure to get the quizzes out to you guys again so you guys can improve your scores on those. If anyone has any questions, let me know. And if not, we can part ways. Okay. All right. So yeah, y'all have a good one. And we will connect with you guys early next week. All right. Cool. All right. Let me end the stream.